VIKAS. Today we will be discussing the questions related to society and social justice related to 2022 mains. So before we start with that, let's have a rough idea about the society section with respect to paper 1. Okay. So usually if we see the trend of last few years, what we can understand is the questions related to society are usually question number 8, 9 and 10. Okay. So we have to have an idea where exactly the questions are coming. It's question number 8, 9, 10 in the first section, and questions related to the second section, that is 15 marker, is question number 18, 19, 20. Okay. So what this does it, no matter how we start, whether we are starting from the 10 marker questions or from the 15 marker question, these are the last set of questions. So obviously the time will be compromised here, right? So the quality of the answers also get compromised. So we have to be a little bit more careful when you are attempting the society questions. Okay. Because in the last 5-10 minutes, what we usually do is we compromise on the structuring part. So we try to just rush through the questions, just write whatever we know related to this and end up, right? So automatically the quality of answers get compromised. Especially if it's a 15 mark question, it will be more impactful, right? And one more thing with the society is most of the questions are open ended and very simple questions also. So they are not going to be too technical or specific. So we can attempt easily all the questions. Okay. So there is enough scope to attempt all the questions with a decent content. Okay. So considering that these are the open ended questions, what we have to do is ensure that the points what we are writing are chosen very carefully. Okay. We have to prioritize the points, make sure that we use specific and good examples, so that the points are more or less related to the demand of the question. Okay. That is how we can make sure that maximum marks are scored in these questions. Okay. Unlike any other areas with respect to paper 1. That is one thing. And good thing is more or less we have like 3 10 mark questions and 3 15 mark question. So it's roughly 75 marks from society section with a limited syllabus. So it's a good scoring area as well. Okay. So that is with respect to the society section in paper 1. Okay. So we'll start with the first question. Explore and evaluate the impact of work from home on family relationship. So basically the question is with respect to the work from home concept. Most of us know what is work from home, right? So it's not a new concept, although it was there from a long time. What happened is with the COVID, it became more of a important thing or a trending thing, right? With respect to in fact we had lot of memes, everything with respect to this. So here UPSC has asked more with respect to the society part, how it has affected the family relationship. So before we start the answer, what we have to do is have a rough idea about the family relationships. Okay. So okay. So just do a quick brainstorming of what are the family relationships. One can be with the spousal relationship, other can be parent-child relationship, other can be with the grandparents, then it can be with respect to the extended family, right? So these are the different family relationships. So it is not that we have to write down all these things separately, but just give 5 or 10 seconds and brainstorm the different family relationships. Okay. So that when we start writing the answers, our points should not be confined to any one or two particular relationship. This will help to diversify the points. Okay. So coming to the introduction, since work from home, the concept by the name itself, we know what it is. There is no need to define again what is work from home. A better introduction can be giving the context. How with the COVID lockdown, there was a necessity to find the alternative to continue the work without going out. So one best option was the work from home. Okay. So you can give the context itself. Work from home, the context was the COVID lockdown. Okay. So in this context, how it became more important, the work from home option. Okay. So that will be the introduction part. Coming to the main body, I think here in this answer, most appropriate structuring will be discussing the positive impacts as well as the negative impacts of work from home, right? So with respect to the first, we can start with the positive impacts. Okay. So here, although we are going to talk about the positive impacts, one small thing what we can do is, instead of giving two headings, positive impacts, negative impacts, which will be more or less on very mechanical, we can rephrase it in a little bit different manner. Okay. So we can say some of the considerable improvements some of the considerable improvements in the family relationship with respect to work from home are as follows. So this will be a little bit better way of giving the heading. Okay, so it will not look too mechanical, positive, negative. Okay, so one of the most important thing has been with respect to the relationship between spouse, the husband and wife. Now with the work from home concept, they are able to get more time to understand each other, right? So the relationship between husband and wife has considerably improved. Okay, and more importantly, especially with the patriarchy and the domestic work issues. Now the husbands are able to better understand the importance or how much effort it takes to do the domestic work, which was earlier very much undermined. So now they are able to understand the importance of that, and they have slowly started to equally contribute to that along with the female counterpart. So that is one thing you can tell. So what point we can tell is the bonding has improved considerably. Second is the emotional support and caring. So here we can talk especially with respect to children. Earlier with hectic work schedule, when parents had to work whole day and come back, they did not have much time to spend with their children. Now they have more time to spend with their children, so they are able to play with them, teach them properly, all those things, right? So it has helped in giving them considerable emotional support and also ensure their right upbringing. That is one more thing. Then with respect to caring, we can talk about the elders here, right? Especially for the elders. Earlier with time constraint, most of them were kept in the old age homes, all those things. Now they are able to take care by themselves. Especially with the children, they are able to better manage the time and spend some time or give time with respect to the elders also. That is one more important thing. Then what more can we write? One point we can bring probably towards the end is with respect to the extended family. So the bonding or the interaction between extended family has increased, right? Especially when during the lockdown time we saw how with the help of media, even the extended family members have started calling to the family members, asking how they are able to manage or handle the COVID lockdown, all these things, right? So relationship with extended family has also increased or improved to considerable extent, right? So these are mainly the positive impacts, or we can tell the improvements has happened, right? So next we can talk about the concerns. So instead of telling negative impacts directly, you can tell, however, there have been certain concerns as well with respect to the work from home. One of the major thing has been increase in domestic violence. Domestic violence has considerably increased, right? According to the report of NCRB or National Commission on Women's Rights, there has been nearly 26% increase in domestic violence in 2021, which we can directly correlate to the work from home trend, right? So that is one thing we can discuss. Then with respect to the stress management. So earlier what used to happen was there was a clear demarcation between work life and family life. Once you come out of the office and go back to home, there was a complete separation. Now when people are working from home itself, they are not able to manage the stress clearly. So many a times that stress is shown on the family members, especially by the parents, on their children, all those things. So not able to manage the stress well, that is one thing. And also in a way it has adversely affected their time spent, because there is no time constraint. People are forced to work for long hours to finish that given task. As a result, even though they are in home, they are spending more time in work. As a result, the time spent with family is actually getting compromised also, not only increasing. Okay, so both the things has happened parallelly. So analyzing this both, evaluating both, what can be the conclusion, appropriate conclusion for this? One thing is we can tell that these things what we have seen is only in the short term. So there is a need to analyze in the long term the trends of this, and also probably one suggestion we can give is with respect to the hybrid model. Since there are both the positive aspects as well as negative aspects, a good thing will be to go for the hybrid model, where the the members or the working employee should have the option of both, so that depending on their choices they can go for each of it. Okay, or maybe a mix of both, working for 3 days from office and working for 3 days from home, an alternative. That can be one thing. Okay. So that is with respect to question number 1. So question 2 is, how is the growth of tier 2 cities related to the rise of new middle class with an emphasis on consumption, culture of consumption. So there are 3 keywords in this question. One is tier 2 cities, the second is new middle class, and the third is culture of consumption. Okay. So we have to make sure that each of it is correlated when you are discussing the points. Okay. It should not be related only to the tier 2 cities or talking only about the new middle class. Okay. And most importantly, what we have to do is link it to the culture of consumption. So now if you see the trend of questions with society, although questions are simple, talking about the middle class, tier 2 cities, all these things, what they are doing is interlinking multiple things. Even with respect to question 15 mark questions, we will see how it is happening. They are interlinking 3 to 4 things together. So our thinking has to be more faster and also able to link all the 3 things in the answer. Okay. So if we are sometimes in the hurry or in the rush of writing answers, we miss out some things. Most of the times this is what happens. This culture of consumption part gets missed out, or maybe any one part will get missed out. So definitely in that case, the marks allotted to that will be deducted. Okay. That has to be taken into care. Okay. That is one thing. So we will discuss. So what can be a suitable introduction here? So if you have a basic idea of what are tier 2 cities in India. So with respect to India, cities are classified based on population size. So tier 2 cities are the ones having population of 50,000 to 99,999. Okay. So this can be mentioned. Most importantly, we can mention about what is new middle class. Okay. So this is the most important thing is which can be written in the introduction here. Okay. What is how the new middle class is different from the middle class. Okay. The new middle class is mainly defined, it is marked by so this is the keyword here. Okay. If you can remember this definition, new middle class is marked by the individual's capacity to consume, especially at the global level. Okay. This is the most common definition which we can have with respect to new middle class. The keyword here, consume, if we can bring in this, it will directly be linking to the question where they are talking with respect to the consumption, culture of consumption. Okay. It will easily link to the main demand. Okay. So now if you see the trend, they are asking how is the growth of tier 2 cities related to rise of new middle class. Okay. So we have to interlink how both are happening. Okay. Rise of tier 2 cities with respect to new middle class. Okay. So one of the major point with respect, so we will be giving a rough heading here before we start with that and then start with that. One of the major reason has been the startup culture. India being the hub of startups in the world, what has happened is most of these startups are focusing or concentrating more on the tier 2 and tier 3 cities. Okay. The reasons being very simple, tier 1 cities are highly expensive, be it with respect to the investments they need or with respect to the land or the offices which they want for rental, everything is too expensive. So what they are trying to do is tap on the tier 2 cities. Right. So these are not only less expensive but are also providing them with the young talent of India. So that is why they are focusing more on this. As a result of this, what is happening is increased job creation is happening in tier 2 cities, right. So that is how tier 2 cities are becoming the center of new middle class. Okay. And parallelly what is happening is because of more jobs, now they have more money with them, right. So which they are able to spend, right. Also what is happening is everything is interlinked here. Okay. Nothing is happening in isolation here. The more money coupled with the emergence of ICT, all these what things we have, the Zomato or Flipkart, all these they are enabling them to consume more, right. The new middle class, one hand they are getting better jobs with the startup culture, also they are able to spend those things easily with these new technologies. right? So that is one thing we can discuss. Second is the hub and spoke model. Okay, what is happening is now the major companies or the big companies like Accenture, IBM, they are adopting this hub and spoke model. Okay, so what they are doing is they are keeping their main office or the head office in the tier 1 cities only, but spreading towards the tier 2 cities in the form of spokes. Okay, so in a way even they are creating more jobs in the tier 2 cities, which in a way is leading to the emergence of new middle class. Okay, that is one more important thing. Here in fact bring in the examples also. Okay, you can easily talk about the examples of Coimbatore, then Gurgaon, all these things are the tier 2 cities, okay, where most of these major companies are now relocating, especially having the sub centers there. Okay, that is one thing we can discuss. Then we can talk about the policy support. So of late in the last 5-6 years, if you see, there has been a massive support by government in the form of Smart City Yojana or the Amrut Mission, where they are mainly focusing on the tier 2 and tier 3 cities. They are not focusing on the tier 1 cities much because they are already saturated and well developed as well, right? So with these supports, definitely there is so much of investment happening here, right? With the investment, definitely the consumption culture is increasing as well. People are able to buy more things and spend more things with these things, okay, with the initiatives. So then one more point what we can link is with respect to the saturation. Tier 1 cities are now becoming more saturated, right? So there is not much scope for expansion, and there is more importantly many issues with the tier 1 cities, be it the traffic or the pollution, etc. Right? We have seen all this with respect to cities like Delhi, Bangalore, all these things. So now with the new middle class, people are preferring more of a different lifestyle, having a healthy environment. People are preferring space for doing walking, exercising, all these things, right? So they are preferring more of the tier 2 cities if they want to have a new lifestyle. That is one thing. Then one more point we can discuss is with respect to the educational hubs. Now if you see the latest trends, most of the educational universities or institutes have been started to come up in tier 2 cities, like for example Lucknow. So Lucknow has now started to become educational hub, right? This is a tier 2 city. As a result of this, there is more consumption in these cities happening. So automatically more growth of tier 2 cities are happening, okay, with respect to the new middle class. So these are the different points with respect to which we can discuss easily how the new middle class is correlated to the tier 2 cities emergence. Okay. So in the conclusion, what we can do is try to bring in any keywords or any innovative words we can discuss. Okay. Probably we can tell about how these are cradles of innovation. Now they are becoming cradles of innovation, and if our initiatives like Smart City and Amrut have to be truly successful, these things have to be taken into consideration well and ensure that proper planning is done, so that they are not going to have any adverse effects in their growth. Okay. Yeah. Yes. Yeah. So here you will be taking up all these points. You have to interlink all the things. Okay. On one hand, with the coming of the startups, it is providing more opportunities, right? New employment opportunities are generated. As a result, people are able to get better jobs, and there is improvement in their class, right? So that is how the new middle class is emerging. Parallelly, what is happening is because of better livelihood and better income, they are able to spend more with the use of technologies. So that is how you will be linking to the consumption, culture of consumption. Okay. And in a way further, that is leading to the expansion of tier 2 cities or the growth of tier 2 cities. Okay. So in each point you will be linking both the things. And one more point also we can discuss with this question is the work from home. After the COVID lockdown, many people who migrated to tier 2 cities or tier 3 cities, they now have the option of work from home. So they are not coming back to the tier 1 cities again. So in a way, the new middle class is expanding in the tier 2 cities itself instead of confining to the tier 1 cities. So the next question is, given the diversities among the tribal communities in India, in which specific context should they be considered as a single category? So here in the first part, they are giving a statement or a statement saying there is diversity in India, but considering that, in what specific context should they be considered a single category? So the main demand here is more or less in this part. Okay, so we have to be talking about the diversities as well, but more emphasis should be given on the second part, how they can be, or in what context they can be considered single category. So in the introduction, since this is more of a straightforward, a simple question on tribes, we can probably talk about the population or the demographics of tribes, how nearly they constitute 8.6% of total India's population, and are also known for having their unique culture and way of living. Okay, it's a 10-mark question also. A simple 3 to 4 line introduction will do. Okay, so that will be the introduction part. So coming to the first part, so they are already telling, given the diversities, right? So here we don't have to write too many points, not like we don't have to write 6-7 points, 3 to 4 points talking about the diversities among them will do. We will be giving more emphasis on the second part. Okay. So what are the diversities that we can consider with respect to tribes? One of the major diversity can be the geographical diversity. They are well distributed across the country, right? So they are not confined to any one particular location. We have tribes starting from Jammu Kashmir till Tamil Nadu in the southernmost point. Even in Andaman Nicobar we have many tribes, and even the northeastern part, the Nagas, all the tribes in the northeast region. So that is one thing. Then the second one can be the ethnic or racial diversity. So we have tribes from all the different ethnics, right? The Austric, the Dravidian, the Tibeto-Burman. So multiple tribes from multiple race are present in India. That is one more thing we can discuss. Then the linguistic diversity. So according to the reports, there are more than 100 languages, nearly 105 languages spoken among tribes of India. So which is a huge diversity again with respect to tribes. So broadly we can discuss about 3 to 4 important diversities. It's an open-ended question, you can bring in multiple points, but make sure you choose the most important ones and prioritize them as well. So now coming to the second part. In what context they can be considered simple? So considering this, it's a society based question, we will make sure that the words what we use are little bit more related to the society part itself. One of the most important point we can discuss is with respect to livelihood or employment. So most of them are commonly engaged in shifting cultivation or hunting. So this is one of the common trend among most of the tribes in India. Easily we can discuss about this. Second point, we can talk about the mode of worship. So here when we talk about mode of worship, what is the most common thing among them we can see is nature worship, right? So nature worship or the worshipping of sacred groves. So even this is one of the common trend which we can see across the tribes in India, right? So we can talk about this. Then we can talk about stratification. So unlike the caste system where we have a rigid stratification, there is no such rigid stratification among tribes. They are more based on the clan or kinship, the groups are not that much stratified compared to the caste system. That is one thing. Then one more thing what we can see is harmony with nature. Although they live very closely to nature, we don't see any of the tribes in India exploiting the nature. They live in harmony with nature. Very common or unique thing with respect to tribes in India we can see. Okay, in fact, we have a lot to learn from that, but that is one common thing which we can see among them. Okay, maybe in the last we can also talk about the level of development that has happened. Okay, be it with respect to the literacy or with respect to any health indicators. It is more or less same. The literacy level is nearly 59% with respect to the tribes. So it is across the country, it is same, more or less, roughly it is in the same pattern. There is no too much of difference in the indicators. So with respect to level of development, this is one common thing which we can see. Okay. So these are the different points with respect to the singularity or what are common among them we can discuss. With respect to the conclusion, we can clearly link it to the tribal Panchashil, which is a good thing we can do here, telling how there is a need to preserve their autonomy as well as ensure their careful integration to the main society while accommodating the diversity among them. So the next set of questions are the last three, 18, 19, 20. So here actually these are little bit trickier compared to the 10 mark questions. Why trickier is mainly because there are multiple things they are asking. One is with respect to the sect, right. So the question says analyze the salience of sect in India vis-a-vis caste, region and religion. So usually when we read about sect, we read only with respect to religion mainly, okay. But here they are asking with respect to three things, especially when it comes to the region and caste, but it becomes little bit difficult to do the analysis, especially in that time constraint. So we usually run short of time. So what happens is we start thinking too much on one hand, even the time is running out, and even we are not able to generate multiple points. So best thing will be to keep it very simple here. Even if you are not able to bring in multiple points, at least make sure the answer is well structured and discuss with each of it properly the three things. Even though there are one or two less points with each of it, that is fine, but structure it clearly according to the demand and give a proper introduction along with the conclusion. Okay. So in introduction we can explain what are sects. Sects are basically a group of people or a section of people having their own set of beliefs and practices. They are mainly the offshoot of a larger group. Okay, basically they are sects. Give 2-3 examples as well. So here when we are giving examples, please do make sure they are diversified. Okay, don't confine to any one or two particular religions itself. Okay, Shaivism is a sect. Then with respect to Islam, we can talk about Shias. With respect to Christian, we can talk about Protestants. So all these are nothing but sects of different religions, right? So easily we can give 2 to 3 line definition of sects followed by 2 to 3 lines examples. Okay. So now in the main question they are asking, analyze the salience of sect in Indian society. So the question is confined to Indian society itself with respect to caste, region and religion. So there is no need to bring in the examples at the global level. Even if you want, we can bring, but the main demand or the emphasis should be on the Indian society here. Okay. So with respect to caste, first. So what is the salience of sect with respect to caste? Here they are asking. Okay. So one thing we can discuss about is we can talk about the living condition, especially if you see with respect to the ancient and medieval times. What used to happen is most of the people who were deprived in their caste mainly were the ones who joined the sects, right? So what mainly happened was improvement in their living conditions. They were now able to get dignity of life, respect, right? So we can give the examples. Take the examples of Lingayats in the South India with respect to Karnataka. When this came out as a new sect, it ensured that equality of all people, be it men or women, be it the members are from any caste. Okay, it ensured that their equality was upheld. That is one thing. Now in the recent times we can talk about the political assertion happening. Many sect based political parties or demands have started to come up. We can see in the recent times only the Jats or the Patidas demanding for reservation or demanding for more jobs. All these are sect based demands itself. That is one thing we can discuss. Yes. Yeah, they are caste based only, but they are also sects from particular region communities only. That basically is not specifically change only, they are saying analyze the salience, the importance of sects. So when they are emerging with respect to sects, in a way it is also leading to this. So next is with respect to region. So here what is happening is there are certain sects which are confined to particular regions only. Okay. So what is happening is it is giving to regional identities for particular sects. Okay. For example, the Gadis or Sheikhs. So when we talk about Sheikhs, they are mainly from northern part. So they are getting regional identities because of the sects which are emerging. Okay. So one more thing what we can tell is tackling of regional issues. Many of the regional issues have now been tackled when particular sects emerge from those particular regions itself. Okay, they are able to address them more clearly. That is one thing we can discuss. Not in specific example, in general we can discuss any regional issue being solved with them. Okay. So the third one is with respect to religion. I think here we will have sufficient points with respect to religion. So many times what happens is many people don't prefer to follow the orthodox practices of a particular region. So they don't prefer to convert or altogether leave that religion, but they want to practice their own things. So that is where religion sects are helping. Okay, accommodating the diverse views. Okay, one more is community bonding. It has also helped in strengthening the community bonding. When members of particular sect have their own practices coming together to follow the practices, it indirectly strengthens the community bonding. Right? Also, it has helped in upholding the plurality of India. Right? Multiple sects living in a single society has further strengthened the plurality. Right? So, roughly we can talk about 3 to 4 points with respect to each of it: caste, region and religion. And briefly we can also mention how there are some issues emerging because of sects. Cultural differences happening, or the cultural clashes happening with respect to sects, or the evil practices unknowingly happening because of the sects. And towards the conclusion we can tell the importance of ensuring the diversity in India with respect to sects. The next question is, are tolerance, assimilation and pluralism the key elements in the making of an Indian form of secularism? Justify your answer. So again there are 3 keywords they are asking, that is tolerance, assimilation and pluralism, the key elements of making Indian form of secularism. Okay. So the keyword here is not just secularism but Indian form of secularism. Okay. So in introduction what we can do is talk briefly about what is secularism. Secularism is separation of state from religion and state maintaining equal distance from all religions, right. So first we can talk about what is secularism, then followed by what is Indian form of secularism. Okay, this is very important here. So what is Indian form of secularism? We have a principal distance model where we have a positive form of secularism, right, and also there is no strict wall of separation unlike the Western form, that is the Indian form. discuss in one paragraph briefly after talking about what is secularism. Okay. Then the importance of talking about this is it will help in linking to the keywords assimilation, tolerance and the plurality, right. The third word is pluralism. When we have to link how those three words have led to the rise of Indian form, the features of Indian form are important. Okay. So when we explain about this, it will be helping in connecting to those three things. So first is with respect to tolerance. Because of tolerance, what has happened is it has ensured that there is no discrimination of any particular religion. Okay. So with respect to secularism, when we tell equal treatment of all religions, right. So when there is no discrimination, only then we can ensure that all religions are treated equally, right. So that is mainly because of the tolerant values of Indian society. We can actually here mention about the idea of so try to bring in these keywords. Okay, they are very important in these answers. Because of this philosophy, we are able to ensure that all religions are treated equally. Okay, so that is one point. One more thing, because of tolerance, we are able to accommodate diverse religions in Indian society, right. If there was no tolerance, definitely when multiple religions started to coming to India, they would have not been accommodated, there would have been clashes. But because of the tolerance we have, we are able to accommodate multiple religions. As a result of it, all religions are present in India compared to any other country, right. One more point we can talk about is there is no forced imposition of any particular practice on any religion. Being a diverse and a very tolerant country, we have let every religion practice their own cultural practices and beliefs. There is no forced imposition of any one particular practice or any other thing on any religion, which has ensured that all religions are treated equally, right. And because of this, there is no strict wall of separation. So next, with respect to the assimilation. So here we have to discuss how assimilation has led to the form of Indian form of secularism. So because there have been incoming of multiple religions, be it from Jainism to Buddhism, Buddhism till Islam and Christianity, every religion has slowly got assimilated in Indian society, right. So what has happened is everybody are able to live peacefully and in harmony, right. If it was like all of a sudden one religion coming to India, it would have been much difficult to ensure that peaceful harmony, but it has been assimilation, it has come over the period of time, right. So what has happened is there is not been any difficulty in accepting other religions in the Indian society, right, and even the policies have been in the same manner, right. Most of the policies have been able to accommodate all the religions, right. That is also one thing, mainly because of assimilation that is happening. And even the rulers, many of the rulers have been able to support all the religions because they have understood that different religions have come to India at different point of time. As a result, whatever the initiatives they have taken, starting from Ashoka to Akbar and till the present, they have ensured that all the religions are accommodated. Okay, all these things have in a way led to the present form of secularism in today. Third is with respect to plurality. I think here it is little bit simple compared to the first two things. We have multiple festivals celebrated by everyone, be it the festivals of Hinduism or Islam or Christianity, all the festivals are celebrated. Even we have national holidays for all the festivals, right? So it has ensured that all religions are treated equally, right? There is no discrimination. And even with respect to the practices, be it with respect to the food habits, or with respect to dressing, or any other cultural practices, it has been always plural in India. There is no uniform practice of any one particular thing. So again, all these things are leading to the equal treatment of all religions in Indian society. Okay, so we can discuss about 3 to 4 points easily in the plurality part. Okay. So in the conclusion, what we can do is, probably we can link it to the preamble itself. Okay, given the importance of secularism, it has been rightly highlighted in the preamble itself, and as a result, it becomes the duty of every citizen to uphold the value of secularism. Okay. The last question is, elucidate the relationship between globalization and new technology in a world of scarce resources with special reference to India. So again, here that like we were discussing earlier, what they are doing is, the questions are on the keywords of the syllabus itself: globalization, secularism, communalism, regionalism. The questions are framed on these keywords only. Only thing is, they are interlinking to multiple things. So here, one is they are asking what is the relationship between globalization and new technology. Earlier, the questions used to be only till here. It would have been much easier. Now what they have done is interlinked to two more things. One is the scarce resources, most importantly special reference to India. So all the four have to be connected in the answer. Okay. Usually what happens is, either the special reference gets missed out, or more importantly the scarce resource gets missed out. We start discussing all the points in general with respect to globalization, new technology. Okay. So in that case, the answer becomes little bit general, not very specific or confined to the particular question. Okay. So this has to be taken into consideration, especially this being the 20th question. This will be the last question we will be attempting. If we are starting from the first question, or if we are even doing in the, if you are starting with the 15 markers only, still this will be the last in this set. So we will be in the rush to complete the questions. So there will be high chance that this part will be not addressed or not noticed clearly when we are reading. So unknowingly the marks for this will be deducted. Okay, so that should not happen in that case. So starting with the answer, here introduction, we can explain what is globalization, the keyword of the question. Globalization is nothing but interconnectedness among the globe, between the different countries, be it with respect to the economy or the culture or the people, investment, all those things. Okay, give a comprehensive definition. In these kind of questions, please make sure we have standard definitions, especially for the keywords in the syllabus. Okay, it will become much easier to write also, and to ensure that there is no compromise on the introduction part. Okay. So now coming to the main demand of the question. The relationship between globalization and new technology. What is the relationship they are asking? Okay, we can tell the relationship has been so there has been a bidirectional relationship between, on one hand, globalization is enabling the inflow of new technologies, inflow and outflow of new technologies. On the other hand, new technologies are further enabling the spread of globalization. Okay. So the moment you are able to identify this part, it will help you in generating two dimensions in this answer. Okay. So in the first part, we will be discussing how globalization is enabling the flow of new technologies. So here, and also you have to keep in mind the other things of that question, scarce resource and special emphasis on India. So one thing is, we can talk about the enabling access to new technologies, right. So here with respect to India, how we will be specifying is with the scarce resource. The fossil fuels is one good example. We are scarce of fossil fuels, right. So now what is happening is we are looking into new avenues like the e-vehicles or the solar technology. These are the alternative for the fossil fuels, right. So we are able to easily get access to the best these new technologies from other countries, mainly because of globalization. So that is one point we can discuss. Then what has happened is, because of globalization, the bargaining power has increased. So earlier, if you remember, before the LPG era, so our trade or transactions was confined to mainly few countries. So if we go back to the 1960s, the PL 480 crisis, we had transactions mainly with US, and we were forced to buy from them only at very high cost and also of low quality. Now with globalization, with having interaction with multiple countries, we have better bargaining power, right. So here what we can give, one best example is the Kamau 226 helicopters, which we got from Russia. We got it at a very good price, mainly because we had a bargaining power. If not Russia, we would have gone to some other country. Now because we have multiple options, even they are able to come down, right. So that is one thing. Then other thing is best technologies. So like we discussed in the previous point also, now we are able to go for the best technologies. We don't have to confine to the limited ones, right. So one example what we can give here is with respect to Israel, right. The drip irrigation technology. So we can here, first we have to mention about the water scarcity, okay. So that is confining to the Indian context. Then because of that, now we are looking for new technologies. One such technology is the drip irrigation, which we have accessed from Israel. So we can talk about that. Then even we can talk about the bilateral ties. Because of bilateral ties, how we are able to get latest technologies. So one thing we can talk about is the nuclear technology. Post civil nuclear deal between India and USA, or the 123 deal, we are able to get good technology with respect to nuclear. This is mainly because of the bilateral ties after the opening of Indian economy post LPG era, right. Mainly it is an offshoot of globalization. So we can easily discuss 5 to 6 points on this. Now coming to the other part. How new technology is enabling globalization? Definitely now the idea of global village is happening mainly because of the latest ICT technologies like the Instagram or the Facebook, Twitter. Just by a click of one button, we are able to connect to the whole world, right. That is how new technology is further enabling globalization. And we are also able to access or avail facilities like telemedicine or teleeducation. All these are possible mainly because of the latest technologies, right, with respect to ICT. With the use of artificial intelligence, with the use of all these latest technologies, we are able to easily connect across the world, right. That is one thing we can discuss. So probably you can discuss 3 to 4 points on these lines. And concluding, so we can tell that there is a significant importance of both globalization as well as new technologies. However, the need is to ensure fair and equitable distribution of the benefits or the outcomes of this across the globe. Okay, that is the need of the hour. Usually what has happened is globalization has adversely affected different countries. Some countries have benefited well while others have been adversely affected. So the need is to ensure it is equitably and in a fair manner distributed, the benefits of that. So now we'll discuss the questions related to social justice from paper 2. Okay. Okay. So here one thing we need to keep in mind is whenever the questions are related to specific schemes or specific policies or any laws, we have to know at least 3 to 4 points, specific points with respect to that. Okay. Because mainly the questions will be asking with respect to analyzing them or discussing the effectiveness of its implementation, all these things. Okay. When we have to do that, we have to know specific points. Only then the points will be very much specific, otherwise it becomes very much general. Okay. So that has to be kept in mind. So coming to paper 2, the first question related to that was question number 7. The Rights of Persons with Disability Act 2016 remains only a legal document without intense sensitization of government functionaries and citizens regarding disability. Comment. So they are telling it will remain only a legal document if the government functionaries and citizens are not sensitized. Okay. So here we will be discussing the issues or the loopholes with respect to the act only, but it should not be generally discussing the issues. We have to be discussing more specifically with the sensitization part. If they are not sensitized about this act, then how it is going to be a legal document only. On the ground there will not be any proper effect of that. That is how we have to be structuring. So here in the introduction we can discuss in what context the act was brought in. Okay, in the mainly in the context of UN Convention on Persons with Disability. In order, since India is a member of that, in order to implement or fulfill the obligations, we brought in this act. Okay, and also to ensure dignity of life. Okay, these are the keywords given in the act itself: dignity and integrity of the person. In order to fulfill this, the act was brought in. Okay. So we can discuss this. So now coming to the main body, first we will talk about some of the major provisions. Okay. Before we start with how it will be only a legal document, we can discuss or list down few major provisions. Okay. It's a 15 mark, it's a 10 mark question, so we don't have to elaborate too much on that. Okay. 3 to 4 points will be sufficient. So when you are writing only 3 to 4 points, choose the most important ones. Okay, we don't have to definitely more than 9 to 10 points will be there with respect to the particular law. We don't have to write all of them. Okay, find out or identify most important ones with respect to them. Just mention about them. Okay, one is it gives a very clear definition of disability. Okay, so this makes it much easier for identification of people who are disabled and who are not. Okay, then most importantly, the number of disabilities has been increased from 7 to 21. Okay. So this is a very major point which has been included under this. Okay. Many points like autism, even acid attack victims have all been brought under this. Okay, which is making it a very holistic one. Okay. Then now for the children with disability, the education age has been increased from 6 to 14. It has been increased to 6 to 18. Okay, which gives them a cushioning. They can afford to take little bit more time. Okay, and the one more important point has been increase in reservation from 3 to 4% it has been increased. Okay, so these are the some of the major points which you can easily point out. Okay, and also you can easily highlight these things: increase from 7 to 21, 6 to 18, 6 to 14, from 6 to 14 to 6 to 18, and 3% to 4%. Easy to remember also. Highlight them in the answer also. Okay, so you can talk about 3 to 4 major points. So now coming to the main demand, how it is going to be only a legal document if they are not sensitized, especially the functionaries and the citizens. So what will happen if they are not sensitized? One of the major issue will be implementation, right? So there will be huge delay in implementation if they are really not concerned or having clear idea about the issues or the concerns of people. They are going to be little bit careless. They are going to have a careless attitude, right? Carelessness and negligence. When they are not sensitized, these are the major things that are going to happen. Carelessness and negligence will come. automatically implementational delay will happen. Okay. So when we are writing points, you should not be just writing implementational delay. We have to tell exactly when there is lack of sensitization, how that will lead to implementation delay. Okay. So that will be one thing. Then with respect to funding, there will be delay in funding or low funding, lack of funding in many state governments. One good example is that of Karnataka. So there is no proper funding with respect to the implementation of this act itself. Automatically, if there is lack in funding, the policy cannot be implemented clearly, the law, right? That is one thing we can discuss. So other thing what will happen is they will implement this on a charity based approach, not on a right based approach. The main thing what is needed is to implement this on a right based approach. They should be seen as the people who have the rights to avail these provisions, not like implementing this on a sympathy basis, right? So when they are not clearly sensitized about the issues and concerns, they will be implementing this on charity based approach, right? Even the citizens will not be clearly aware of what are the actual concerns, right? The family members themselves, they are not having good awareness about the different disabilities. So automatically they will not have the willingness to implement or make sure that the people get these benefits, right? So these are some of the issues which will happen when they are not sensitized, both the functionaries and the citizens, okay? So make sure both are brought in the points, okay? The government functionaries as well as the citizens. One more thing that can happen is the specific needs or demands of the particular disabled people may not be met. Okay, they are going to implement in general. Okay, so not the exact needs of, but different people with different disabilities might have their own needs, right? But if they are not very sensitive of those things, they are going to implement in general only, not specifically addressing each of it. Even that will compromise to a considerable extent, right? So all these things will ensure that it remains only on paper. On the ground, the implementation will not be that effective. Okay. So these are the issues which will happen with that. Coming to the conclusion, we can tell what is the need, right? The need is to move towards a right based approach and ensure that its implementation is carried out both in letter and spirit, not just on the paper. The next question we will be discussing is question number 16. Besides the welfare schemes, India needs deft management of inflation and unemployment to serve the poor and underprivileged section of the society. Discuss. Okay. So here they are telling besides the welfare schemes. Okay. So they are telling welfare schemes are important, but they themselves are not sufficient. We also need to manage inflation as well as unemployment. Okay. Only when all three things are going together, then only it will be able to serve the poor and underprivileged. Okay. So if there is only to focus on the welfare schemes, it is not going to be successful. That is what the demand of the question is. So coming to the answer, in the introduction, since it's talking about two things, inflation and unemployment, probably we can use data related to both. Okay. In the recent times, the inflation has been hovering around 7%, and even the unemployment rate has been in the range of 7 to 8%. So you can mention about the statistics related to both, which will be a suitable introduction in this question. Okay. So they are in the question they are telling besides the welfare scheme, right? So they are telling they are important, but apart from that, other two things are also important. So briefly we can talk about the importance of welfare schemes. So we can either discuss in point format or we can even draw a small sun diagram. Okay. Since this is like a sub part of the question, what is the importance of welfare scheme? One is it ensures social justice, right? Then it ensures that minimum needs or basic needs are taken into consideration, right? For example, PDS, the basic need, one of the basic need is food, that is taken into consideration, right? And it also ensures minimizing inequality in society with the distribution of resources. Then it will also ensure welfare of citizens. Right? So these are the main objectives or the importance of welfare schemes. Do give one or two examples with each of it. Okay? Social justice, we can talk about the RTE or even Beti Bachao Beti Padhao with respect to gender justice. These are the welfare schemes, right? We can mention briefly the importance. Now coming to the first part, why it is very important to manage inflation. So here we have to interlink paper 3 section, the economy section as well, but make sure the points are little bit more on the social justice lines. Okay. So one of the major thing with respect to inflation is, when there is high inflation, consumption capacity will come down because the prices are becoming more, especially the poor and needy vulnerable people, they start reducing their expenditure. Okay. And one of the major thing with respect to the poor people is their maximum expenditure is on food and fuel, right. So these are the ones whose prices go up, especially when there is inflation. So automatically they start cutting down the spending on food and fuel, automatically their consumption capacity comes down, right. So linking to this, what we can tell is this will affect their health and nutrition. Right. So if it was paper 3, we could have discussed more with respect to the economic points. Here we will be discussing more with respect to these points, how it is going to affect their health and nutrition. Okay. It is easily going to increase in lead to increase in malnutrition, all these things. Okay. Undernourishment will happen when there is lesser spending on food. Then more importantly, savings will get eroded, especially poor people rely mainly on their household savings. When there is inflation happening, the prices start increasing. As a result, they have to start spending more from their savings. As a result, savings will start eroding. That is one more point we can tell. Then cost of living increases overall or in general, right. So all these things will in a way lead to cost of increase in the cost of living. So if these things are happening, just with the help of welfare schemes you will not be able to tackle all these things. The welfare schemes will not be able to sustain these things for a long time. As a result, it is important to manage inflation as well. Okay. So that is one thing we can discuss. Now coming to unemployment. So what exactly will happen if there is welfare schemes, still unemployment is on a high rate? What happens is, there is more increase in government spending. Not only increase in government spending, but increase in government spending on the basic needs itself. They have to spend more on providing food, right. So we even saw during the lockdown how there was so much increase in the government spending on the PDS, midday meals, all those things, mainly because there was more of unemployment, right. So as a result, there will be increase in fiscal pressure, and even they cannot sustain for a long time. They have to adhere to the fiscal policies, right. So even this cannot be done for a long time. More importantly, it will also bring down the capital expenditure. Creation of capital assets will come down because of this. There will be too much spending on the basic aspects itself, right. Then with if unemployment is there for a long time, most of the people have to take loans, right. As a result, they will be stuck in the vicious cycle of debt. They will not be able to come out of that itself if they are unemployed for a long time. If they get employment, they will be able to repay and come out of that. But if unemployment is sustained for a long time, they will be stuck in the vicious cycle of debt. Okay, that is one more issue that can happen. Then crimes will increase. Over a period of time, what will happen is, when there are no other alternatives or avenues for them, automatically people will have to resort for crimes. That will also be a major issue in the society. Then finally we can talk about stagnation of economy. If the people are not able to contribute towards the economy, it will lead to stagnation in the economy, right? So these are the issues with respect to inflation and unemployment. If only welfare schemes are taken into consideration, without this, even they will not be sustained, right? So here when you are talking about these points, try to bring in the welfare schemes also, how they cannot be sustained for a long without tackling these two things. Okay. Yes. Yes. You can mention when you are talking about any of the point, you can link those points also. Okay. So in the conclusion, we will be telling how if India has to achieve its new goals of 5 trillion economy, all three things has to be taken into consideration. All three things has to go hand in hand. Tackling of unemployment, tackling of inflation, keeping inflation in the moderate zone of the limit we have, right, 4 plus or minus 2 in that range, and also equally important is the welfare schemes. Okay. The next question is question number 17. Do you agree with the view that increasing dependence on donor agencies for the development reduces the importance of community participation in the development process? Justify your answer. So here it's actually a very open-ended question and it's a very general question. They are telling donor agencies. They have not specifically mentioned any particular agency here. In general, they have mentioned, and another keyword here is community participation. So the question itself is saying, if there is more dependency on donor agencies, automatically the importance of community participation in the development process will come down. Justify your answer. So we have to be giving justification why this will happen. Okay. So in the introduction, we can give a introduction on developmental process. How for a developmental process to be truly fruitful or successful, there is a need for participation of all stakeholders, including the citizens, the government and the donor agencies. Okay, so we can start with the introduction on that lines, then coming to the main body. So basically we have to be discussing what are the ill effects or the adverse effects of increasing dependency or over dependency on the donor agencies. So one easy or simple point will be, it will lead to a top down approach. Right. So we already have a good experience with respect to this from the perspective of state. When we had more reliance on the top down approach in the 1950s and 60s, it was not that much successful. Same will be the case with the donor agencies also. It can be any donor agency. When there is more reliance, it will lead to top down approach. Automatically the people's participation will not be more. So if community participation has to be there, it has to be the other way, right? Bottom up approach is the need. But now more dependency will lead to top down approach, which is not going to be much fruitful. One more thing what can happen is when there is too much reliance on them, what it will lead is the beneficiaries will now be seen as the recipients only, not as the participants. Only when they are seen as the participants in a particular developmental process, they will be equally involved in the process. But now more reliance on the donor agencies will make them just recipients, just the beneficiaries of that. Automatically their participation will come down. Right? So that is one thing. Then one more thing that can happen is there will be a mismatch between the developmental process and the need. Let's say for example the need of particular region in Kerala. Usually Kerala is known for good health education indicators, right? Now a donor agency coming from a foreign country wants to contribute towards the development. So they want to increase more funds on the educational aspect, but they are already well off, right, with respect to education. So their need is something else. But if they are not clearly knowing there is more dependency on the donors only, they are going to spend more on the education again, which is not actually the need. So there will be mismatch between the need and the demand and the supply, right. Automatically people will not be that much interested in participating because they already are in good condition with respect to education. So that can be one thing. So then when there is too much dependency, what happens is people will not be that much comfortable or willing to come and give the feedback. Many times we see that many of the different approaches will have certain loopholes or will be needing some improvements. But now when there is more dependency on the donor agencies only, people will be hesitant. They will not be too much comfortable to come to them, talk to them or give any valuable feedbacks. Automatically their participation will come down, right. Then their choices will be restricted. Okay, most importantly, whenever there is too much dependency, what happens is they will be deciding particular program or a initiative what they feel is more important to the people, not understanding what they need actually, right. So automatically it might not actually benefit the people, right, when there is no clear feedback taken from them or there is no interlinking between both of them, right. So that is one more important thing that can happen. Okay. So these are mainly what are the issues when there is too much dependency on the donor agency. Okay. However, the donor agencies are equally important. Okay. So after elaborating on this, it's a 15-mark question, right. So we need to discuss at least 6 to 7 points on these lines, then probably give at least 2 points, 2 to 3 points on the importance of donor agencies. Okay. How donor agencies are equally important, be it with respect to providing the resources or funding or with respect to the technologies. Okay. So with respect to providing all these things, they are equally important. So we cannot completely ignore them, that can be mentioned. And finally concluding, saying it is equally important to ensure the participation of all the stakeholders if the developmental process has to be truly successful. So the last question, question number 18. The right of children to free and compulsory education 2009 remains inadequate in promoting incentive based system for children's education without generating awareness about the importance of schooling, right. So the question here is mainly saying that the RT Act is not able to promote the incentive based system for education for the children, and also not able to create enough. If it is not able to do these two things, it is not going to be much successful, right. So with this question we can start by giving introduction on RT, how RT was introduced in the year 2009 mainly to fulfill the obligations under Article 21A, ensuring free and compulsory education for all children in the age of 6 to 14. Okay, that can be the introduction. Coming to the first part, briefly mention some of the provisions. Okay. There is no need to discuss both separately, together only we can discuss. Okay, 3 to 4 points, some of the provisions which have been actually beneficial. One point we can talk about the free and compulsory education. It has in a way led to increase in the literacy. Although the quality of education has not been very good, still the literacy level has been improved mainly because of free and compulsory education. Especially if you see among girl children, the literacy rate has considerably improved. That can be one thing. Then the 25% reservation Even this has to considerable extent increased the participation of children in schools. Then the no detention policy. In a way, this has ensured that there is considerable movement of people, children to the higher levels of education, right? So these are 3 to 4 points you can discuss, which have been considerably successful. So now coming to the main part, how it is lacking in incentive, promoting incentive based system. See, one of the major point with respect to the RT is there is more emphasis on the rote learning, right? So what this does is it creates an impact on the children that education is all about learning from the books, nothing more than that, right? So it is not going to incentivize them in any way. It actually disincentivizes them. Even they start feeling that even if you don't go to schools, it is fine, because it's simply about rote learning, writing exams. That is one impact that is creating the present form of education system, right? So one more thing is the age bracket. Since it is providing for free and compulsory education for the age group of 16 to 14 only, what is happening is there is no push towards higher education. Right? So what happens is it's like people become dropout after 14. Only those people who are able to afford or interested in studies, they are able to move to the higher ladder. Otherwise, after 14, many people drop out of the schools. Right? After 14, there is no such provision like compulsory higher education or anything. That is also in a way linked to disincentivizing the children. Most importantly, the quality of teachers. So one of the major thing with respect to RT is there is no special emphasis on the quality teachers, right? Teachers play a major role with respect to education. If there are really good teachers, children will voluntarily come to the classes. But when there are no good teachers, they are not given any incentive. They are not encouraged to come itself to the classes, right? We have many issues with respect to this. Poor quality of teaching or absent of teachers itself. In many schools we see, especially with the rural parts, the teachers are not coming very regularly to the schools, and there is no auditing also or any accountability for that. As a result, it doesn't incentivize the children to come to the schools. When the teachers who are actually supposed to be the role models, they themselves are not coming, it will definitely not incentivize them. That is one thing we can discuss. And this is one of the most important thing. If children have to have some kind of incentive, there has to be some kind of other activities, right, along with the normal classes. But here there is no focus on any occasional training or bridge courses with the RTE. As a result, even that doesn't incentivize them, right? And there is also no focus on innovation or creativity in the education system. Now we do have many schemes like the Atal scheme, all those things related to that, which are promoting Atal tinkering labs. All these things have been established now, which are promoting innovation, creativity. But with the RT itself, there is no such provisions for promoting innovation and creativity. These are some of the things which actually incentivize the children to come to schools. When there are some innovative things happening, when they are made to think or do something out of the creativity, that actually makes them to come to schools. If it is only about studying from the book, learning from the books, writing exams, it doesn't incentivizes them too much, right? And also there is no clear awareness created about what actually is education. For them, education is all about learning from the books. That is what education means for them, right? That is happening because of RTE. Yes. Yes. here they are asking how the RT is not able to promote incentive based education system. Okay. So we have to take up the problems and tell how they are not promoting incentives for the children to come to schools. Okay. And one more important point we can tell is actually the no detention policy has in a way led to backfiring. The children are continuously promoted higher the ladder, okay, but there is no focus on the quality of output. As a result, the ASA report justifies how people of children of 5th and 7th are not able to do even the basic arithmetics or the mathematics, right, because there is not much focus on the output, right. So these are some of the major drawbacks which are actually disincentivizing the children and not creating proper awareness about what actually education is. Okay, so education is a holistic and a lifelong learning process, right, that is not being taught to the people, to the children with the RTE. Okay. So these are the points which we can discuss. It's a 15-mark question, so we can easily discuss 6 to 7 points. Coming to the conclusion, one thing is we can tell how there is a need to make it more incentive based. We can even link it to the new education policy. So these are the major questions related to social justice in paper 2. The questions are not too difficult to handle, especially with the social justice part. With the society part, the questions are again based on the syllabus topics only, and also what we can see is it has been a mix of both current affairs and static part. Out of 6 questions in society, there were 3 questions from current affairs and 3 from the static part only. Only thing is they are interlinking too many things. So we have to ensure that the thinking process is much faster in the exam hall. Okay, that is what will be helpful to make sure all the parts of the questions are addressed in the actual answer. Okay. Yeah. So that is it with regard to the discussion of this year.